Bronze?
Huh? What?
What are you doing?
I'm setting stuff up for the next video.
What is this?
It's what the next video's about.
This?
Hey, this costs more than your commission and professional voice lines will down the road. Oh, right. They don't know yet. Hey, nice of you to come by my channel. Have you clicked subscribe? So I haven't really seen anybody make a video on this topic, and seeing that the Wii U and 3DS eShops are closing, I figured this special concoction was worthy enough for a video. With the 3DS and Wii U eShops closing, we will be losing one of the only ways to play certain games in full HD, especially Game Boy Advance and DS games. As of this video, we have no other way to play these two systems of games in 1080p without the big red plumber pointing his finger at us. Wait. I've met him. He's too nice to do that. If anything, Bowser would be the one to do that. Believe me, I've met him too. So yeah, without emulation, there's really no way to play DS games in 1080p. Game Boy games, on the other hand, that's a little different. Let's go further into that. But before I do, at the end of the video, I'd appreciate it if you guys help the video out by liking, commenting, subscribing, the whole 9 yards. I don't do this in most of my videos, but I had to restart my channel last year for bad algorithm reasons, and I'm hoping this video does well in the algorithm, so any support is greatly appreciated. Having come out in 2001, the Game Boy Advance isn't the best with resolutions. Here's my SP because I sold my Advance when I was 12 because I was an autistic idiot. Now I'm just autistic. The GBA's got a pixel count of 240 by 160, which is 38,400 pixels. That may sound like a lot, but like I've said in my Super Mario 64 DS video, a TV with a 1080p resolution has over 2 million pixels. So saying the Game Boy is a little pixelated is, well, an understatement to say the least, and saying that getting it to 1080p is difficult is, well, a severe understatement. You probably clicked on this video wondering how you can play Nintendo's demographic bias game system in full HD, and you're probably wondering how I've done it. Hardware jailbreaking, modifying systems, finding an extremely rare HD adapter online? Well, none of these actually. The only other way you can play authentic Game Boy games in that high of quality is from a Nintendo system, ironically enough. For that, we need to go back to the same year the Game Boy Advance came out and see its bigger, better, albeit less successful brother. The GameCube came out the same year the Game Boy did, hence the similar names, and the two do have support for each other in certain games. Luigi's Mansion technically does it, but with the Game Boy Color. Splinter Cell is another game that uses the Game Boy, and others I probably don't know about use it too. Since they're compatible in so many games, it was inevitable that a Game Boy Advance player was coming along for the system like the Super Nintendo did with the original Game Boy, and we got that. In 2003, a Game Boy Advance player came out and showed us Nintendo does have plans for those random plugins on its systems that you have no idea exist. Why did the Wii U gamepad have this big plugin at the bottom? It was never used for anything. Most people probably didn't buy this adapter because 1, nobody really bought the GameCube, and 2, nobody was buying the GameCube to play Game Boy games on the big screen. It was just something that came out at the time, and it shows. By next year, the DS would come into the market, the Wii was already in the works, so it feels Nintendo just said, hey, for those of you that have both, you can do this now. And it may not have looked like much then, but now, maybe just for this one video, it's your time to shine, Game Boy adapter. But not yet. Even with the Game Boy adapter, we can still only play Game Boy games in 480i, not even DVD quality at 480p. Almost 20 years ago, this would be it. Video over. But this is 2022. We're in a different age for better and for worse, but in this case, better. Thanks to modern technology, we now have a portable graphics upscaler called the M Classic. This came out in 2018 or 2019, somewhere in that time period, as an Indiegogo project that is now something you can actually buy in stores. You can buy it at Best Buy right now. It's what I just described it as, a portable graphics card for consoles, specifically for older consoles in the late 90s, all the way to the late 2000s. This little graphics card can make games from the N64 era all the way up to the Xbox 360 era look better. Super Nintendo games and back don't really do much with this because most of those games were 2D games, and those that were 3D, the M Classic can't really help looking at you, Star Fox 2. We'll come back to you one day. I see the heart in that game, but the technology's not yet there. With this M Classic comes a retro mode that's specifically for older games. We'll be using this mode for reasons I'll get into later. So let's see how it works. Well, we can't because, believe it or not, we're not done yet. Being released in 2001, the GameCube lacks something the M Classic needs, an HDMI port. So we're gonna have to get a GameCube adapter off of eBay. It's not that bad though if you're a retro game collector, because this adapter also works for the N64 and Super Nintendo since they all have the same video port. And with that adapter, that's it. This is everything we need to play Game Boy Advance games in 1080p. If you bought this today, it would cost you roughly $430. And that's not even including shipping, tax, an HDMI cable, or the game itself. And if you really want to be tech savvy, there's a better adapter that'll cost you about an extra $170, so that total would be around $600, everything else being the same. I didn't get the tech savvy adapter despite being a tech savvy person because, well, I don't have 170 spare dollars lying around. The only reason why I have all of this is because I was fortunate enough to get everything for this when expensive parts were at good prices back in the day. But enough tech savvy talk, let's see how it all works. Let's try a classic Mario Kart Super Circuit. Ew, full screen. Here's where the retro mode comes into play. Since the adapter upscales video to 720p in a 16:9 aspect ratio, the M Classic's retro mode takes the aspect ratio back to what it originally was and smoothens the resolution while upscaling it to 1080p at the same time. So, let's see it now. Not too bad for a system that's barely higher resolution than the lowest quality setting on YouTube, 144p. Like, I'm dead serious, there's not even a 2000 pixel difference in between 144p and the Game Boy Advance's resolution. It's not perfect looking, but it's through 3 adapters, what do you expect? For quality comparison, let's compare it to my Virtual Console version of the same game on my Wii U. There's also a compressor mode on the Virtual Console to make it less blocky. Here it is with the M Classic's retro mode on top of it. I use compressor mode with the M Classic retro mode in my Super Mario 64 DS video I mentioned earlier as well, but we'll do all the comparisons in this video. Let's try a different game now, one that's a little slower paced. Finally, a full HD Golden Sun game. I had to, I'm sorry. I want a Golden Sun game nowadays just as much as everybody else does. Golden Sun looks good too, and you can tell the smoother textures with retro mode on top of it. I've got leaf green as well. Don't ask me why there's blue pen on the cover, because I'll tell you, my sister and I had this game, so she colored hers to tell whose was whose. We'll come to this in a minute though, since there's no Virtual Console version of it. Now, with all that said and done, let's check out differences in these two games between the Virtual Console and authentic versions side by side. If you ask me which of these two looks better, I'm gonna be honest, the authentic one looks better to me. Not in a quality kind of look better, but like more of a feels like it's a Game Boy game better. Like it's not crisp and pixely. Game Boy games are not meant to be seen on this big of a screen and this high of a resolution. So by getting it through adapters and having it to this high of a resolution authentically, it looks better in my opinion. The Wii U Virtual Console, don't get me wrong, with the smoothing and the M Classic, it does look nice, but there's just something off about it. It feels too, like, clean and smooth. I like the blurry smoothness of the adapters on the authentic version much better. It might just be me, but that's just my own take on it. If you like the way the Virtual Console version looks, that's completely fine. Both of these look good in their own right, but I like the authentic version. Not for nostalgia reasons or anything like that. There's just something about it I enjoy looking at more. Now let's see what Leaf Green looks like. That's not my sister's name. Shout out to my cousin Matt's sister. This is her account and it hasn't been touched in like over 15 years. Honestly, Leaf Green looks pretty good. So yeah, this is everything you'll have to resort to in late March of next year to enjoy Game Boy Advance games in 1080p without doing the emulator stuffs. Wait, March? Why does Nintendo love taking good things from us in March? First Mario 35, now this? Oh, I made a video on Super Mario 35 too if you're interested. It may not look like the best, and it may cost a lot, but this is a technical feat in its own right. Nintendo probably never expected a Game Boy Advance game to be played in this high resolution with nothing but authentic components, with a little help to keep it up with modern tech as well. If you're not down for spending over $400 at least for all of this, if not more down the road to play these games, I'd suggest getting a Wii U now if it's got what you want on the Virtual Console. If you look in the right spots, you can easily get a Wii U with the gamepad for less than $200, and the games on the Virtual Console are $8 a piece.
Or just emulate like everyone else does.
Regardless of how you play these games, I'm glad I was able to show you what I can do to stick it to a company I used to love. Modern Nintendo is just not the same. You modern Nintendo players can have your unfinished Battle League, Mario Kart Mobile, and Mario Kart not... Wait, no, you'll never get that. Anyway, you can have those. I've got the far better versions right over here. They may not look as good, but what good is eye candy if it tastes bad? You think people enjoyed Honey Pop 2 solely because it was eye candy? No, because it was a good game on top of it.
Bronze, you're rambling.
Oh, right, my bad. I'll stop rambling and just go ahead and end the video here. Like I said earlier, I'd greatly appreciate any support for this video, and I'd also like to thank you, most importantly, for watching. Thanks to Jen for helping me make this video, and as always, take care and have a good one.